Hello again, Gills fans. Welcome back to the latest episode of Gills in the Blood TV. It is early Sunday morning. Myself and Rhys are recording for our Monday review show. We did a goal.
We actually did it in the back of the net for once.
And we did a win.
Wow.
I do have to say, quickly before we go into this video, I'm going to take it as a compliment yesterday, but someone come up to me in the ground and said they're really enjoying the new concept for the Monday review. We're like the two Ronnies.
Oh, wow. I don't know what I think of that, but is that a backhanded compliment? I like it. I'll take it.
I'll take it as a backhanded one. I'm not sure it was a proper one, but I'll take it. So, no, people seem to be enjoying it, which is great. And Gillingham fans, do not go anywhere. We are going to talk about a Gillingham performance. Defensively sound, attacking, we were a threat. We got into good areas. We created chances. We were 3-0 up at half-time, nearly. Linesman kept ruining our day. But the main thing is, all jokes aside, we found a way to get over the line and pick up a thoroughly deserved 3 points. Rhys, I've not had a chance to watch your video yet. I will do it at some point on Sunday. Relief, I suppose, more than anything, just quickly to sum it up, and then we'll go back to 2 o'clock and the team lose and go through the game.
I think so. I think massive relief, and we'll talk about when we scored. But I think all the neighbours around me must have woken up if they were asleep or wondered what the hell was going on, because I screamed through the roof. But I could definitely feel this sort of tension release when Gillingham had scored, and when obviously when people left the ground, the final whistle went. It just felt, and on Twitter as well, everything was just seemed to be like, oh, okay, right, we've got something we can talk positively about. So. Yeah. And that's a nice feeling. Something which we've been missing since the Rochdale game, but even for a while we've not really had anything to go. Oh, we've got something really a good feeling to go back to on a Monday morning. So
yeah, I think like Neil's alluded to it plenty of times, and we've spoken about it, and fans have discussed it on Twitter. There's been games where we've been all right in patches, but I think for 90 minutes yesterday, that was probably, if not the best, but one of the best performances we put in. And we know, and I understand that the bar is fairly low, Gills fans, from what we've had to put up with this season. I get that, but you can only play against what's in front of you, the same as the Rochdale game. And I thought we were very good in everything we did. But let's rewind. We'll go to 2 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Team got announced, 6 substitutes, so more injury problems, it seems. No Ben Reeves in the squad, no Stuart O'Keefe. Stuart O'Keefe we was fully aware of was likely to happen. So I laughed at Boz and said, this midfield that we're overstacked with in the summer is suddenly looking very, very thin on the ground, because it meant there was no O'Keefe, no Reeves, no Jeffries, no Lee, Josh Chambers, who came back in the week, not deemed fit enough yet to be involved. So it was a bit of a change. Robbie McKenzie got moved into the middle of the park next to Sean Williams. Shay Alexander came into right back. That was the only change in the back four. And Jordan Green was the other one that got a recall. And it was a good old-fashioned Champman 0-1, 4-4-2.
Yeah.
What did you make of it when you saw the lineup announced?
It was quite a funny one for me, actually, because pretty much the right hand side of the pitch had changed. You got Shay Alexander and Jordan Green on the right hand side, and for me, Robin McKenzie going in the midfield, definitely in more of a natural position for him. I was actually, even though we had a couple of players injured, Jenny was quite excited about this just simple football formation that everyone can understand, and that's kind of how I felt about this lineup. If anything, the only disappointment I actually had, and we'll talk about it a little bit later as well, but I actually wanted to have Walker start over Mandron. That was the only thing I wanted to happen, and that was a bit disappointing. I like Mika Mandron, but I just would have liked to have seen a completely new partnership up top.
Considering what happened at Hull. We discussed this on last week's show, didn't we? We said something had to change in terms of goal scoring and becoming more of a threat. We'll probably have a chat about Mika later on in the video, because there was one particular incident that I know you want to mention.
Yeah.
And there was another similar type incident during the game for another player that generally becomes a scapegoat when things are not going well. But we're going to stay positive, Gills fans. We don't want to lower the mood. We don't want to ruin anyone's Monday. No. First half, I thought we took a while to get going. We had an early burst, first couple of minutes, and then I thought Sutton actually settled into the game. And they had the first real shot in anger. I think it was Josh Nerfield, the young right winger who's on loan from Luton Town in the Championship, I think. Cut inside onto his left foot. I said at the time, and I think I might have done him a disservice on the match day live, so I do apologise, Glenn Morris. I thought at the time it was a fairly routine save that he could have pushed away into danger, but looking back at the highlights from a different angle, actually he was at full stretch and it was a fairly smart stop. So more kudos to Glenn Morris than I originally thought. But I thought after that, I thought we bossed the first half.
I think we did. I just on that save as well. Not only did he make that save, he went through a few bodies, I think, as well. So it was a pretty tidy save. And I mean, I'm a native goalkeeper as well. So I ideally, when I see that happen, I was like, oh, you could tip it out of danger, but actually he did pretty well to stop that anyway. And luckily we cleared it. But that was really the only threat that Sutton posed that whole half. And it was the first highlight that I put in my video. And then after that, we bossed possession. We looked like a team that could string some passes together. We looked at, do you know, a few weeks ago, we were talking about Gills don't even look threatening. I can safely say, particularly from the first half building, I thought, okay, we're trying to do something different here. And there's a little bit more creativity, a little more urgency in that first half, which ultimately maybe there's a bit too much urgency because we had 3 goals chalked off.
We did, yeah. And I think we're just sort of gloss over Sutton because, like you said, as an attacking threat, they didn't really offer much. I think the only other half chance they had came from Glenn Morris slapping a clearance against the backside of the centre forward as he closed him down. And luckily, Glenn managed to hack it clear. Because I think there was a few sort of oohs and ahs in the stadium, and I'd imagine you'd have been the same because he has had a couple of moments in recent weeks that are very Glenn Morris-like, but he recovered and we recovered. And yeah, you've mentioned 3 offside goals. First one, ball breaks in the middle of the park. Hakeeb Adelakun, really good first-time ball. And I was up. I must admit, I'd gone. I was ready to go mad. And then someone shouted the flags up and ruined what we thought was going to be another one of those days.
Yeah.
People in the ground at the time, we were saying looked fairly cut and dry. He was miles off because there was no real sort of complaint from Kashkit. No one sort of got round the referee from what I can recall. I've watched it back. It's very, very tight.
It is tight. And I can only imagine that because it's that tight, I assume the lino was just given, you know, if it's obvious, it's obvious. People in the Raineyman can see it's obvious. But if it's tight, there's only a handful of people that can see that. And, you know, some get it right, some get it wrong. But unfortunately for us, we actually don't know.
No, and I think if we was to put VAR on it, which I'm glad we don't.
Agreed.
I think for me, it'd be one of them that comes down to armpits, feet, arms, which part of Scott Kashkit was actually offside. That's how close it was. But the big thing for me, and I said this to Boz on the Matchday Live, it wasn't the finish of a player playing in a team that are struggling to create and score goals. It's really accomplished finish. Got his head up, bottom corner, whipped it in the side net, and I thought, all right, it's been disallowed, but this is a really positive signing. It then happened again to linesman. Well, this was the referee, I think, unfortunately. Ball into the box. It sort of got cleared up in the air. And I think as soon as you saw Mika trying to attempt the ambitious bicycle kick, it was always going to get blown. But it was a really good finish from Ryan Law again because he's not to know. And the keeper's gone at it full length as well. He smacked one in the bottom corner from the edge of the box. Unfortunately, the whistle had already gone. Correct call for that one, I think.
I think just about. I mean, it's quite a funny one because I've seen in throughout the last sort of 10 years, you see players go up for bicycle kicks and acrobatic attempts, and sometimes the referee lets it go and you score an absolute worldie. And I've seen those goals go in and referees disallow them because of a high boot. So it's a funny one for me. But actually, on the grand scheme of things, I think Mika should have just actually not worried about that, chested it down to Law, and the same outcome might have happened. You know, I think actually it was a bad decision by Mika to do that. But if it goes in the back of the net and the referee doesn't blow, then you're saying something different. You know, it's just one of those. But for me, if he's playing the percentages game, he should be laying that off, in my opinion. But
yeah, which is generally what he is good at. We'll have this chat we've said already about Mika and his abilities in the air as a target man. But yeah, generally he's all right when he's got it into his chest or his feet and bringing others into play. So yeah, but again, maybe comes back to that lack of confidence that we've spoken about plenty over the last few weeks. The third one, I think, should stand. I absolutely think it should stand. It's a really clever piece of intelligence, I think is the right word, from Will Wright to start with. Because for all the world, we're waiting for that ball to go far post, someone to try and head it back towards goal or back into a danger area. Kashkit makes a great little move from sort of inside of the penalty area to out. I'm assuming it's disallowed for Scott Kashkit being offside because Mika can't be because it's pulled back from the byline. But to me, Kashkit looks level at worst.
Well, it's a funny one because in my video, it's out of all the 3 disallowed goals, it's the only one I go full celebration with because I think we've put it in the back of the net. For me, when I'm watching that, I cheer, I go, oh, we've scored, and then I'm like, oh, really? It's been disallowed. Who's offside? And I couldn't work out who'd been given offside at the time. And then I later assume it's going to be Kashkit, but he makes a really nice curving run, and I don't know how tight that is, but for me, from the angle I have on that, it looks like it was splitting hairs. Like and again, if we had VAR, different story. I don't know. We'd know this, but it was tight, really tight. And and actually, when you see it from the angle from my view, it looked like he actually came briefly on side for that pass to be initiated. But unfortunately, again, the Linos ruined our first half and put the flag up. And it was not in it. It was a really good ball across the box. It had some real purpose. It wasn't just a lash across the box and hope Mika was there. It had some real purpose. It was a nice disallowed goal, unfortunately.
Yeah, and to give credit to Mika, it was some proper centre forwards movement as well. He goes to sort of dart towards the near post and then just peels back off to give himself the space to be able to tap it in. And really frustrating, but at the same time, we was trying to remain positive because the performance was really, really good.
Yeah.
Like we've said, they didn't offer us anything in terms of a defensive issue. I thought the likes of Nerfield and Joe Kizzy, the right back, might have given them us more problems with their pace. They had two up front that were big lumps that I thought Will Wright and Max Amar dealt with really well. I thought what we did really clever was we just never let them get in behind. We made sure that the game was played in front of us, so that then we was able to pick up that ball in between the midfield and the centre backs. Sean Williams was really clever at tidying up and getting us moving, going again. But yeah, I think frustration, but positive at half time, I think was probably the best way to sum it up because it was a really good display, I thought.
It was a great display, and I think, especially the first half, we were always half a yard ahead of Sutton. I always thought most of the game we're always half a yard ahead of them. We're slightly quicker. We won a few more second balls, for example, and a few more 50-50s, which I haven't seen really the last few games. But this time we kind of did. I don't know if it's we've stepped up or Sutton just had a bad at the office or a combination of both. But we definitely were half a yard ahead of most of Sutton's squad on Saturday. And I think that the free disallowed goes kind of tell that.
Yeah, 100%. I've said it on Twitter. I've said it to people coming out of the ground. I thought 1-0 massively flattered them at full time.
Yeah, I think so.
But, and you can only beat what's in front of you. Going back to your comment about Sutton having a bad day, you can only beat who you're playing, and we did it very well. There was one change at the break, Rhys. Jordan Green got absolutely wiped out first half, and it looked like he'd shaken it off. And I thought after that, he'd got into the game, and we were getting both wingers on the ball, and he was starting to get to the byline and threaten to isolate the fullback. But clearly there was an issue that he couldn't shake off properly, and it was Alex Mcdonald that came on, and that ultimately turned out to be a fairly good change.
Yeah, really.
No change to the shape, still a 4-4-2. I thought the second half followed a similar pattern. I remember they had a sort of cross-come shot, I think it was from Nerfield again, that I think Max Amar got in the way of, and we defended the corner fairly comfortably. And then after that, I've written down Gills' boss possession, boss territory. But there wasn't really anything clear-cut until probably the last sort of 10, 12 minutes, when then it became a bit more like the Alamo on their goal. But I thought, again, we were comfortable. But I did say to Boz after about an hour, we've not made the keeper make a save. And I also made the comment and said, we've got two centre-forwards on the bench. One is a kid, so I understand you might not chuck him on for ages and ages, although I've been impressed with Joe Gabodi. But Lewis Walker is a bloke that you've said in the press that you chased for a month. Now, trust him.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things I picked up on that as well. I was thinking we've got a little bit of personnel on the bench here. I want to see Walker start. I want to see a bit more of him because I think he has something which he hasn't shown us yet. And I was a bit disappointed he came on the time he did. I mean, just before we talk about the last 10 minutes, actually what I did think in the most of that second half is we were really good building up to the final third. And then it was just a poor pass, a poor touch. We just needed a few of those to come together for us to be more threatening in the final third in the second half. But a lot of times the ball would go forward and Adelac and make a poor pass, or it would go forward and Scott Kasich just couldn't quite get on the end of a run just to put it into the box. It just felt like it's just that last little bit just wasn't coming together. But they did in the last 10 minutes. And I know we want to probably talk about a change that happened, in my opinion, that changed the complete complexity of the game. And that was when Mandron came off for Walker. And Walker came on.
I think so. And I think there was also another subtle one that really helped change the game. He swapped Adelakun and Mcdonald. Mcdonald went to the right, and then Adelakun come over to the left to give the fullbacks a different issue. And that really sort of got us on the front foot again. But yeah, I understand your point about up until the sort of the 75th minute. I think there was Ryan Law cross one, and it went just behind everyone. Everyone had got into the 6-yard box, and it flashed just behind them. There was a couple that were just over here. There was a couple of free kicks that went straight down the keeper's throat, and you thought we could have done more. But yeah, last 15 minutes, I thought we absolutely laid siege to their goal. I've got We had the really quick throw from Alex Mcdonald, which was really good from him, was really good from Glenn Morris initially as well, to get it up and throw it over halfway straight away, which is something we've not done enough. But yesterday there were signs of it. We wanted to take the ball to feet again, even Maxima, who we know is probably the least comfortable doing that, I think. But yeah, Scott Cashkett was unlucky, dragged the shot. It took a deflection. We won a corner. I've then written down the Lewis Walker snapshot. I think Shea Alexander, for me, we'll get onto in the match ratings. He turned into prime Cafu second half. I thought he was unbelievably good. Reminded me of sort of Ryan Jackson when he was at his best. He was marauding right back, was good enough to get up and down. He was linking play with a winger. He was brave enough to come inside and step out with it and trust himself with a ball at his feet. I thought he was superb second period.
He actually grew into the game. It was pretty quiet, I think, for the first half, and the second half started okay, but he really grew into the game in the second half. And all of a sudden, I keep doing the commentary over the game. I'm saying Alexander a lot more, and I think, oh, he's really pushing forward. He's really trying to do something with the ball. But definitely was growing into the game a lot more in that second half, which was pleasing to see. And hopefully, I'd like to see more of that moving forward, actually.
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was him that linked play with Adelakun for the chance for Walker, wasn't it? The 1-2, and then Adelakun flashed it into the box. I thought Walker's first touch was really good. He just couldn't get his foot round it, and it just sort of drifted wide of the far post. We then had the keeper made 2 big saves with his feet. There was a ball in from the left. I think Mcdonald had stayed out there after taking a corner despite swapping in open play, and that right-footed ball to the back post. And I thought it was going to drift out for a goal kick. So credit Hakim, he got there. And tried to sort of either hit it in off the keeper because he was a really tight angle, and the keeper sort of bundled it out with his knees or his shins for a corner. I think from the corner, there was a bundle in the box. Will Wright, decent half volley, keeper saved it with his feet. And at that point, I was starting to think, it's going to be another one of them days.
Yeah, and actually from that, one of the things that you might not have seen in the standards when that ball came in from the corner, it was a short corner. Actually, it started that, and I hate short corners. I hate short corners. It really winds me up. And so when I saw a short corner, I thought, oh, for God's sakes, here we go. But actually, when it went to the back post, actually, before it came to Will Wright, it was a slight deflection off Max Amer, so he had to reshape his body to at least get the shot away, which probably meant the quality of the shot declined slightly. However, he still managed to get something pretty solid, and it went for a sea of players, and the keeper managed to get his feet on it. But as you've just alluded to, I thought since when that happened, I was like, yeah, ain't going to go to the back of the net, is it? Again, that's all I kept thinking. I was like, another 0-0, and it's a different story.
Yeah, and it would have been an absolute travesty if we'd not come away with 3 points based on territory, chances, possession, the way we approached the game compared to them, and just the better quality that we showed. I'm not saying we were perfect, far from it. We're a million miles away from being a top 7 team or anything like that at the moment, and it's only a very small step after a poor start. But we did everything correctly that we had to do consistently for 90 minutes. And I think if that's 2 or 3-0, no one bats an eyelid.
Yep. Absolutely. And I don't know if we're going to, I want to mention something about the change when Mandron went off for Walker. Now, obviously, I'm listening through the microphone on the camera. But I don't know what your opinion of this is, Matt, but there were some cheers and jives from the Rainer men when Mandron was subbed off for Walker. And I don't know what your opinion is on that, because for me, I hate hearing things like that, because even though he's had a few bad days at the office, I don't think that someone deserves that when they're going off the pitch. And I don't know from your perspective if you heard what it was like in the stands to hear something like that.
Yeah, we heard it. It was clear as day from the Rainer men, and I completely disagree with it. I totally agree with your point. It doesn't help anyone.
No,
it's a hindrance to everybody. There was an incident in the first half, which I mentioned on the Match Day Live, where Max Amar sort of got caught in 2 minds. Did he want to pass it to feet or did he want to clear it? He sort of did neither. They picked up possession. There was a few in the block next to us that stood up, gave him absolute dog's abuse. And then Robbie McKenzie did it literally a minute later. No one bats an eyelid. And I think that's not on at all, especially when your team needs you more than ever at the moment. And I put something on our Instagram account on Saturday morning and said, regardless of what we think of everything else, the external factors away from the pitch, the Paul Scally thing, the Paul Fisher thing and all that, this is our club. This is our Gillingham still, and they need us more than ever at the moment. We've got to get behind them. And I just thought it was stupid, if I'm being quite honest. And people may disagree. And if it was you, that's fine. That's your prerogative, your choice. You pay your money, you do what you like within reason. But for me, all it did was killing any momentum. And to actually cheer a player being withdrawn doesn't sit right with me, because for all of his flaws, Mika Mandron, I don't think there's a case to say that he's not trying.
No, absolutely. And there's also a case to say he's not getting the delivery, he's not getting the passes that suit his style of play at the moment. And that could just be down to chemistry. You know, and he's all right, he should be maybe trying to fight to find space, fight to do this, fight to that. But I think that, you know, his best interest is in the club, and in his best interest is putting some goals in the back. And I think you said earlier, like if all the disallowed goals had been allowed, he'd be our top scorer out of 12 games, 5 from 12 or 4 from 12 or something like that.
4 disallowed this season, and if we look at all of them, the Wimbledon one in the cup should never be disallowed. He's miles onside. Especially the first one at Grimsby shouldn't be disallowed. It's a perfectly good header. There's no foul from Maxima on the keeper, and I think yesterday should be given as well. We'll give the benefit of the doubt to the linesman for the second one at Grimsby.
At Grimsby, yeah.
But I think even if 2 of them are allowed, he's on 4 in 12 games. He's going along at 1 in 3, which is 15 over a league season, and that's not to be sniffed at all.
Absolutely.
So we could be here talking about a very different Mika Mandron season if it wasn't for a linesman's flag. I get he's got to do lots of things better, but he's not the only one, is he? Christ, we've been so poor collectively over the course of the season so far that it just seems harsh to be singling people out a little bit. I agree. I wanted a change. Don't get me wrong. And we spoke about this on last week's show, and I said I think there's a case to maybe put him on the bench just to take him out of the far line and relieve the pressure. And he might be able to come on in a game and stretch things when players are tired. But Mika cares. I think that's clear.
Absolutely.
And Mika tries, and that's just as clear. He just needs one to go in off his backside.
I think that's what it is. But actually, and I can imagine what some people might respond to this and say, actually, they're cheering the fact they're cheering at Neil Harris and saying, finally, you're making that change. You've identified there's a weakness. And that could be the other angle people take. But at the same time, it's still unhelpful.
And surely you cheer as Walker runs on. The cheers were coming long before Walker was all ready to come on. It was happening as Mika started trudging from the centre circle. And for me, it just looked like it was directed at the player.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't care if people say, well, they're professionals, they don't need to react to that. But then you can't say they shouldn't react to that, but then you want to be the 12th man. Do you know what I mean? You can't have that both ways. So for me, of course, a player's going to react to that, and it's not going to be a nice feeling. And I think that's unjust as well. But that was my thoughts on that. And,
no, I totally agree. And we all have different opinions, Gills fans, and we get that and we respect that. But I totally agree with Rhys. I thought it was detrimental to what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely.
This makes a change, doesn't it? We've had a fully positive episode, and then we've had to find a negative. All we've done for a month since we started doing this together was talk about a negative episode and then desperately try and find the positive. The next few letters I've wrote down are GOOOOOAAAALLL and a absolute shed load of exclamation marks.
Yeah,
21st minute. Gillingham scored a goal. The linesman didn't put his flag up. The referee didn't disallow it. Pandemonium all around the ground. Me and Boz went absolutely mental. I'm sure Rhys went absolutely delirious on his video as well. Scott Cashkett again.
Absolutely.
From the keeper, and Alex Mcdonald has the intelligence to keep running forward after playing the initial pass. I thought he was going to hit the post and go out or drift across the line because that's our season so far. But it went in, and what an absolute relief for literally everyone involved with the football club, be it players, staff, coaches, fans. Just like you said, it just felt like a whole weight had been lifted.
Yep. Absolutely, and there's this thing you just mentioned it. So it was a great bit of play. It was picked up by Mcdonald, who started the move. Actually, let's not forget, got in front of his man.
I think it was Williams actually.
Oh, Williams
just
actually.
To give him some credit, I think he pinched it off Craig Eastman in the middle of the park and then gave it to Macca. So credit to Williams as well.
So you've got a better memory than I. I've gone one step back, yeah. But yeah, absolutely. Then Macca got in front of his man, got the pass to Cashkett through the legs, I think, of a Sutton defender. And then Cashkett really only has one option. He can only pass that. And what Macca does really well here is what all good instinctive players do. He's made the pass and he's not gone, oh, well, that was a nice pass. I've put Cashkett through. He's gone, right, there could be something for me to clear up here. Yeah. Cashkett takes a shot. And as he's going slightly further wide, do you think either it's going to go wide or the keeper's really easily going to save this? Keeper does make a save. I've got to say this. I thought Ward did okay throughout that game for Sutton, did all right, but that save let his side down. He put it straight in the path of Macca. But and thank God for it's bounced our way for once. But he put it right in the path of Mcdonald, and he just got his head in it. And that moment where it was going towards a post, I thought, there's a microsecond, I'm thinking that's going to come back out, isn't it? And they're going to clear it, but it just clips the inside of the post and then goes to the back of the net. And in the rest is short-term history, isn't it?
Yes,
as it were.
because everything became a massive blur after that. And
Yeah,
then obviously from saying, oh, brilliant, there's 5 minutes injury time, we were begging the referee to blow the whistle as quick as possible. Because
exactly.
I think it was 2 minutes on the clock after the celebration of the additional time. So obviously we're thinking there's still 4 minutes because he's going to add on extra on top of that now because we've celebrated in front of the Rainham. And aside from one cross come shot, I think the snapshot across the 6-yard box that drifted out for a goal kick again, I think it was Josh Neuville again, who seemed to be certainly of the attacking players, one of their threats,
Yeah,
in the
I think
loosest
so.
sense of the word, I think, based on what we saw from them. But I thought we saw it out fairly comfortably, and the final whistle was met with a mixture of relief and elation, and it was great to hear the Rainham end in full voice. The last waltz was bellowed out.
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
we adopted the old Cody Mcdonald song to change it to "Oh, Alex McDonald" as he walked off,
nice.
applauding the crowd. I think Mr. Harris might have been getting some stick from someone in the Medway stand as well, and I think he turned around and just directed his fist bumps towards that individual, according to social media.
Okay.
But yeah, massive, massive performance, and certainly a massive, massive 3 points.
Absolutely. I think it's the first time this season because it's first time this season when I've paused the game and I follow, done my editing, and then gone back just to watch some of the game again because I just wanted to relive some of it because I thought our performance was solid.
Yes.
I rarely do that, but I thought that deserved it. And I was looking at the Mcdonald. I think I watched it like 6 or 7 times.
That might be because we're not sure when the next one's coming.
That's
And
probably true.
let's hope and pray that Alex McDonald does not win goal of the month for October for Rhys. And
Someone's
let's hope
already
and
pointed that
pray
out.
that Rhys's goal of the month video lasts longer than 45 seconds for October.
Hopefully, fingers crossed.
Right, we have to talk about Sutton because we do this every week. I've called it Sutton Star purely because I seem to be a big fan of alliteration, subconsciously.
I'm expecting it every week now.
It tends to work. It's better than last week's, but like our performances throughout the season, I don't set the bar too high, to be fair.
Enough.
I don't know who you've gone for, and we seem to have mentioned Josh Neuville quite a lot because he seemed to be the one that the ball kept falling to in dangerous areas. Should he probably have done better with his chances? I think on 1 or 2, yes. So I've not gone for him as their best player. I went for Joe Kizzy, the right back.
Okay.
You hopefully have gone for someone different because it makes the show more interesting. But I just thought, and certainly, and this is a phrase we've used about Gillingham far too often, he was the best of a bad bunch. I'm not saying he was brilliant. I mean, if you compare his performance to our right back, Shea Alexander, he was miles off. But he played 90 minutes. He tried to link up with Neuville whenever he could when they was trying to press and get us, backpedaling on the half turn towards our own goal. He did his defensive duty fairly well. There was a couple of clearances, there was interception, a couple of solid tackles. He competed in 5 duels overall and he won 4 of them, so it's 80%. So you can't say he's not done his duty as a right back, first and foremost. We know the game's changed and right backs are essentially a second winger now, but I'm a bit old school. I think you have to defend first and foremost. He made 2 key passes, so he's linked up with his forward players in fleeting instances that have caused us a problem. I just thought he was fairly solid defensively. He had to come up against 2 wingers because he kept changing it, didn't we? He had to come up with Kashkit, who kept drifting wide as well to cause problems, and he stood up to it. I'm not saying he was brilliant throughout, but for me, Joe Kizzy was probably the best Sutton United player on display.
Yeah, he took my second place actually, I agree with what you said. I thought he was a threat going forward as he was defensively, but yeah, okay, it's the best of a bad bunch. I mean, apart from the guy that I'm going to mention now, which is I thought Josh Neal, is it Neufville? Was that you say his name?
I'm not sure. It's,
yeah,
it's got an F and a V, so I wasn't really sure.
A bit of a weird one, but I thought Neufville was for me. He looked like the only one in Sutton United who looked like that could create something a bit more threatening, and he was the only one that I thought, oh, he's the one that's going to change a game if anyone else on that pitch is going to, especially moving forward. So that for me was the one. I mean, he played the full 90 minutes, and I think one about was it 70% of his passes were accurate, and put a few long balls through that were pretty successful. Won a lot of ground duels as well. So I thought he was pretty solid out of a team that didn't really impress throughout the whole 90 minutes. And then Joe Kizzy was the one that was very close behind. But on that right hand side, all for Sutton was the only side that really were threatening, and pretty solid defensively as well, and kept that side of the pitch relatively quiet for a lot of the game for the Gills perspective. But I thought those 2 on the right hand side did pretty well, and was the best of I'm sorry, Sutton fans, best of a bad bunch for you guys on that day.
Yeah, totally agree. And it probably says a lot about Ryan Law's performance that they were their best two players, and I still thought Ryan Law looked fairly comfortable all afternoon. Gills man of the match. I mean, it could have been easy to give it to Macca because I thought he had a very good 45 minutes and he's ultimately scored the winning goal, which is brilliant. And he probably deserves it for all he's gone through in the last 9 or 10 months. But I don't think anyone could go away from Scotty Cashkit. I thought he was absolutely superb in terms of his willingness to chase down lost causes, his willingness to press from the front, his willingness to stretch the game, to do everything that you want in a modern day player in and out of possession. But he does it for 90 minutes. There's just no stopping the fella. You'd think after 60, 70 minutes, he's going to burn out. And bear in mind, this was a player that came in the summer and there was question marks over his fitness. He's missed one game through injury with a groin problem and he was straight back at it against Hartlepool. Deserved a goal. It's not really a performance like we look at, like we've mentioned the stats, and we do that because they are a good gauge, but sometimes you just have to go with the naked eye.
Yeah.
And I think from the naked eye, Scott Cashkit, that's probably one of the best individual performances from a Gillingham player this season.
I mean, I can tell you what I thought that was. I thought it was a Gillingham player playing on in a Gillingham kit in a Gillingham style game, and that's kind of how it felt for me. Yep. You know, and he might, you know, he just was just everywhere. Like it was all over. If you watch back that game, Scott Cashkit probably was in the frame most of the time. Like he was there doing something.
Absolutely relentless, yeah.
And it was just incredible. Like he's chasing down the goalkeeper, and I'm thinking, like, you've got to run back now and get on side, but you've made the keeper like had to hurry his goal kick or his kick from hands. In fact, you put a lot of pressure on the defender, and that's how mistakes are made. You know, if you just put a little bit of pressure, and all of a sudden, defenders at the back like, oh, Cashkit's going to be down my throat in about 2 seconds. I've got to do something with this, and just keeping that up, that intensity for the whole 90 minutes was quite incredible, actually. And was definitely a thing. Because I'm a teacher, it's definitely a thing I would show a class who's doing sports fiction or doing a football match, and that's the kind of attitude you need to take to a game if you really want to impress and give 100%. Because I thought it was a textbook example of giving 110%. And
spot on.
Yeah, and for me, that's why he's got man of the match.
yeah, I think it was a fairly routine pick for most people in the ground. There was a couple that came into contention, and we'll get onto them when we do the match ratings. But just looking at those stats a little bit: 2 shots on target, 2 shots blocked. That's without the goal, because that doesn't go down as a stat. So he's then had the one that's been ruled out. So that was another shot on target. 80% passing. He won 40% of his duels, which for a centre forward, you know, that's not to be sniffed at.
Yeah.
We could be sitting here talking about a goal and an assist for Scott Cashkit, couldn't we? Very easily. Yeah. On another day, he'll have a bit more luck, and fingers crossed they do start flowing. Gills player ratings to finish up, and it's nice to be sitting here and not using the words 4 or 5, I think, which is quite refreshing. We'll do it in formation order like we normally do. So we'll start with Glenn Morris. I gave him 6.5. I thought aside from the one where he kicked it against the centre forward, I thought he had a fairly routine afternoon. He made one decent save first half, and I thought he came out and he claimed crosses and he punched, and his distribution was fairly decent, particularly the one second half where he got Mcdonald away, which led to the chance for Cashkit. So not loads to do. So 6.5 for Glenn.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, I totally agree. 6. That's what I gave as well. And you know, I mean, lest we forget, like if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, usually ends up in the goal. But he made them 1 or 2 errors yesterday, but recovered from them pretty well. So you know, and we all make mistakes. Glenn Morris has saved us many times already this season, so I think it'd be harsh to come down on him. There, he got a clean sheet nonetheless. So
number 5 in the league, number 5 from 11 games in the league. It is something to build on. We just need to make sure that it starts clicking continuously at the other end, and I think we'll be all. I don't want to get ahead of myself. No, right.
Let's live in the moment.
Back to what we're talking about. Shay Alexander, I gave 7.5. I thought first half he made sure that he did his defensive work. And that he made sure that the game was played in front of him. And then, like you said earlier, the longer the game went on, he got braver and he got more confident, and he started stepping out into midfield. He started getting on at his winger. He started pushing them back. He was linking up with the wingers really well. Another one that could be, you know, have this pre-assist thing that they like to talk about higher up in the football pyramid, which I'm not a great fan of. But he was involved in everything that we did really well, both defensively and more fleetingly, attackingly. And for me, comfortably Shay's best performance in a Gills shirt.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I gave him a 7, and I think we use the same criteria here in the sense that you know he grew better throughout the game and was and got a lot of confidence throughout the game as well. So much so that he was going forward, just like you know, creating stuff in the second half, which is what he was doing going forward, but also committing to his defensive duties as well, which I think is an important thing to bear in mind. But yeah, I gave him a 7 as a result from that game. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. I think we thought he was just probably the best out of the back four, and none of them were poor by any means. We've given Will Wright, Maxima, and Ryan Law all 7s as well. I thought they were all really solid. Wright, Emar won everything in the air that they had to do. Wright, similarly to Alexander, got braver as the game went on, started stepping into midfield and started pinging them diagonals, not just them long, hopeless balls that we used to do last season. But there was one, I think, where he switched it end of the first half, where he played it from right to left to get Ryan Law into space, was really good. So, yeah, the rest of the back four, we gave all solid 7s. They all had a good afternoon.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that what I've done, I've given everyone else a 7, apart from Will Wright. I gave 7.5 actually.
Okay.
I thought him going forward offered a little bit more as well. He had a shot blocked right at the end. I thought was so he had a bit of an attacking prowess, but I thought out of that back four, for me, Will Wright was slightly higher rating than the others, but they all got 7s apart from Will Wright got a 7.5 from me. So I think we're pretty much singing from the same page on the defensive duties,
which is good to see, and it is good that they're all getting praise. It's nice to be sitting here sort of oh, they were equally bad, which is what we've been doing too much. So we move forward. We go from right to left. So we started with Jordan Green. Got that whack early doors. Hadn't really seen the ball, had he? Unfortunately, I thought he then started to grow into the game, but came off at half time. Unfortunately, so I couldn't go higher than a 6.
Yeah, that's what I gave him as well for those those reasons. Unfortunately, I think he would have done what Che Alexander done throughout the game and grew into it if he stayed on the pitch a lot longer. But then, would we have seen Macca as a result? Who knows? You don't know. But it's a funny one, isn't it? But for me, a 6 on that for Green. He will play better and in other games, and he probably will play worse. So it was just an average one for me for the half that we saw.
Yeah, and I think that sums it up pretty well. Robbie McKenzie, I was pleased he was in the middle of the park, and I thought he gave us legs, and I thought he gave us more mobility, because there's been this thing that we've chatted about, and it's been mentioned on social media, that a trio of Williams, O'Keefe and Rhys is fairly pedestrian for all their qualities. Excuse me.
But
I just thought Robbie took his time to settle into the role. It looked to me like he'd not played in the middle of the park for a while. There was a couple of times, there was one early doors that Boz picked up on the match day live. I'm not sure if it was in the footage that we produced in the video, but him and the left back sort of went towards the touchline by the Gordon Road stand for a throw, and then Robbie sort of looked round and the bloke ran off him and he didn't pick him up, and I think it might have led to the shot, the early one from Neuville. And there was another couple of occasions where he just seemed a bit hesitant and wasn't sure where his position on the pitch should have been. So for me, 6.5 for Robbie, but I'm sure he'll get better in there the more he plays in there.
It's interesting you say, because actually I thought in a very similar vein, he looked a little bit out of sorts, but he didn't look that much out of sorts to me. He looked like he was just a bit rusty in that position. It's like he hadn't driven a car for 2 weeks and just forgot how to change gear. That's kind of how it felt like to me, his performance. But I gave him a 7 actually. I thought he had a good impact in the centre of the park, and I also thought him and Williams together looked pretty tidy actually. And I agree what we were a bit pedestrian if we have, O'Keefe in the centre sometimes as well, and that trio. But I thought McKenzie added a different complexion to that centre midfield, which I think completely developed our game a little bit further and gave us a bit more threatening moving forward. And I think that's what McKenzie kind of did. But yeah, I think he'll have better games positionally. But if we keep him in that position somehow, I think we can definitely see a much more dynamic midfield than we've seen in the previous, games since the start of the season.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think collectively he made us better being in there. I just thought individually just looked a little bit off the pace, but that comes from playing more games in that position. So,
of course.
Sean Williams was the captain on the day. I thought he was pretty much flawless. I gave him a 7.5. He just kept everything ticking over. I will say it again, and it is my catchphrase, the calmness. The composure amongst the chaos, sorry.
Yeah.
He personified that yesterday for me. Every time people looked hurried on the ball, he'd just have an extra touch, get his head up, whether it was a simple 10-yard square ball or we'd go backwards and we'd start again, or he'd play it into feet and get us moving, going the other way. I thought he ran the show from the middle of the park, Sean Williams. I thought he was very, very good. Again, similar to Alexander, I thought his best performance in a Gillingham shirt so far, 7.5.
I got 7.5 as well. There's a couple of things that he does which I can never fathom how he does it. So he'll get the ball from a really it would ping sideways and just look like it's slightly out of reach. You'll get it under control, or it'll be a 50-50 and with another player, and he'll somehow manage to get it through them, or just do a quick nutmeg just to get it out of the way. And so he has control of possession. And I think what Sean Williams does well is, I've got the ball, I'm going to get it, and I'm going to control what happens next. And I think that's what and that just comes down to experience, and was he 36 now? So he's done this for a long time, but it really shows when he's got the ball, I'm in control what happens next. And you can really clearly see that happening on that pitch. And that was definitely a good showcase for it yesterday of what he's capable of doing in a Gills shirt. And because I thought it was his best performance so far this season.
Yeah, totally agree. Hakeem Adelakun was the winger the other side at the start of play. I think we say the same thing about this lad. He's a very good player. You can see it technically. He's good with both feet. He's got a trick. He's got a decent amount of pace. It's just not coming off for him at the moment. And again, we could be sitting here talking about a goal and an assist for Hakeem because the Scott Kashket one that's ruled out is tight. That's Delacoon's assist if it goes in and it's allowed. And then the half chance second half that he sort of hits against the keeper's legs. Gave him a 6.5. There was bits where you thought he's going to turn it on here and start running the show. And then you have your head in your hands the next minute because he'd try to step over and he'd step on it or it'd run out of play. Again, he's trying so hard. Is he trying too hard?
I think he is trying too hard. So it's quite funny. If you look at Hakeem, if you look at Adilican, what he's throughout the game at one point, his rating's about a 9. And then 5 minutes later, his rating's about a 3.
Yeah,
like it's just that it's
there
just so
no in between.
There's nothing going there. So that's why I've gave him a 6 because it just there was moments of brilliance. He did a really quick throw into Scott Kashket, and then he lobbed the keeper in the first half.
Yes,
and
he did. Yeah, you're right.
I thought, oh, that's it. That's the tempo we need. And then he does a pass, which is meant to I think for in the second half, it might be Macca on the right hand side, puts it through. It just goes out for a throw in. I think, huh? Like, where's the in between here? Where's the consistency? Like you say, he has got it in his pocket. He has got it in his back. He is a quality player. It's just not quite piecing it all together. All the puzzle pieces there just not assembled yet. I think that's just what it is.
Probably a fair way to sum it up. And similar to us collectively, he does it in spells, but we just need to see him do it more consistently over 90 minutes. We get to the front two. We've already spoken about one man. I didn't want to be harsh yesterday, and that's not to say that I thought he was brilliant, but I thought let's be positive while we can. So I gave Mika Mandron a 6. I don't think anyone deserves to be less than what I say is an average performance because everyone played their part at some point in us winning the game and keeping a clean sheet. And again, he's another one that could have had a goal had it not been chalked off.
Yep.
But there's just that nagging sense of we can get more out of Mika at the moment, and it's just a case of Neil and Dave Livermore and the coaching staff finding a way to unlock it.
But it's a two-way street. Let's not forget that. There's other people around him who need to support him as well when he's started playing. Does Mandron need to adapt to how the Gillingham team is playing at the moment? Yes, maybe. But do our midfielders and do other players around need to adapt to how Mika wants to play? Yes, maybe. But that's what you want. You want a dynamic squad that can accomplish those kind of styles of play. Unfortunately, it's not happening for Mandron at the moment. I gave him a 6 as well, because I don't like, because a winning team, unless someone's been given a stupid red card after 10 minutes, like we discussed a few weeks ago, I don't think it's fair to drop him low because the effort's there. It's just not working for him at the moment. But, like we said, if every goal that he's put in the back of net has stood, he's scored, 4 or 5 this season out of 12. It's a different story entirely. So it's just a bit of bad luck at the moment, I think. That's all it is. And
And that doesn't mean to say that we think he should start every week before we get absolutely jumped on by other Gillingham fans, but we're not going to be sitting here cheering when he's taken off. Let's put it that way. I just think there needs to be some sort of middle ground with Mika at the moment and all the players, because like we've already mentioned, they need us more than ever at the moment. And let's hope that yesterday's performance, Saturday's data. This is the Monday review being recorded on a Sunday, talking about a Saturday. That's why I'm confused. And it's quite early in the morning.
It is.
Yes, we need this as a springboard to push on and start getting ourselves up the table.
Absolutely.
Scott Kashket, we've already discussed. We gave him man of the match. I gave him an 8.
Yeah, 8.5 for me. I was quite generous. I thought one of the best performers in a Gillingham shirt all season, I thought, actually.
I think it's good that we're sitting. You can tell how good we were because that's 3 or 4 now that we've said we're probably the best performance in a Gill shirt, which is great.
Yeah. And we've said enough about him already, but it was just he was at the office, he was there 110% and was a Gills performance, and all Gillingham fans, particularly the old timers, will know what that means. And for me,
I'll put myself in that category now.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. It's worrying, isn't it?
Substitutes.
Yes.
Elkan Baggott was the last one. We'll get him out of the way. I didn't give him a rating. He was on for
Nah.
literally a minute and a half to
Still
just
got jet lag,
waste
hasn't
time.
he?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, he's had a decent week, to be fair. I think that's 3 wins and three clean sheets. But there is some sad news just on a side
Yes,
note
there
coming out of
is.
Indonesia this morning. I
Mm,
saw 174 people have died in a riot. So I'm not really sure what's gone on there. But obviously, thoughts
no.
with the families of everyone that have
A-
sadly perished, because that doesn't sound like a good situation at all. Obviously,
Absolutely.
it's
And
not something we're used to hearing about anymore in the modern game,
no,
rioting. But yeah, so hopefully Elkan has not got anyone out there that he knows that's in any sort of trouble or has sadly passed away. But yeah, thoughts with everyone that's
of
affected
course.
by that at the moment.
Of course. Yeah, that's not great. Yeah, thoughts to everyone who's involved in that and knows people who are involved in that. That's not a nice thing to be part of, unfortunately.
No. Lewis Walker, back to the game. I
Yep.
gave him a 6. Again, he was only on, I think it was 14, 15 minutes. So he just about qualified for a rating based on 75-minute mark that I generally use. I thought he'd done all right. He competed well in the air. He got involved in the link play, pressed as well. He was unlucky with a snapshot on the turn, I think, from a Delacoon's cross with about 5 minutes to go. So yeah, fairly decent cameo from Lewis Walker. And let's hope we've got a pizza trophy game coming up. Hopefully, he'll get some more minutes and can sort of stake his claim for a bit more game time in the league fixtures.
Just to add to that, actually, I think his rating's a bit high. I gave him a 6.5, pushing to 6.6. There was something when he came on the pitch, he had an injection of energy that I couldn't quite put my finger on exactly where it happened or how it happened, but something happened when he came on that pitch, and all of a sudden we weren't doing those long balls anymore, and we were playing it on the floor, and he was making some runs, and it gave Sutton defence something to think about. You know, someone who's got 100% energy against a tight defence. Just added that extra injection of energy, which I think the front three, or definitely the front three needed. But definitely something happened when he came on for me, and I thought it was a positive thing that he brought to the pitch the last sort of 20 minutes or 10 minutes, sorry, of that game. So I thought he did well considering the time that he was given.
Yeah, oh yeah, totally agree.
Yeah,
I'm being the harsh one. Makes a change.
I'm being too generous. Bloody hell, yeah, right.
We have to talk about Alex Mcdonald.
Of course we do.
45 minutes he got. We know the issues he's had over the last 9-10 months with injury, and the fact that he was pretty close to having to call it quits, unfortunately, because the injury was that bad, and I don't think they could get to the bottom of it. But I gave him a 7.5. I thought it was a very good performance from him without the goal, a solid 7. And then I like to add an extra half a point on for the goal. I don't think there's one Gillingham fan in that ground or watching on iFollow or listening to the radio that would begrudge Macca his moment in the sun, because he's had it tough over the last 10 months, like we've already said. Definitely his best performance of the season. And it looked like the Macca that we had under Steve Evans when he was very good and part of that team that threatened to get us into the playoffs in 2021, when he was part of that front four, which was him, Dempsey, Jordan Graham, and Big Dane Oliver. I thought he was very, very good when he came on, and that limitless energy seemed to be back. I think he's looked like he's played within himself so far this season, but that looked like a proper Macca performance.
I've got a friend who's an Oxford United fan, and obviously saw that that Macca had scored, and looked at my video and said, "Wow, I only saw the bits of the second half, but that looked like a Mcdonald that we had in Oxford as well. Like he looked like he'd come back and really had a good performance there." And I agree. I gave him a 7.5 as well, and for the same reason that you had the extra 0.5 for a goal. I like to add myself. I think that's a fair thing to do. I want to add. It's like, we were talked about it. His ability to read the game has never eroded since his injury, and he could easily, that header, right. They could have easily put it to the centre or to the right hand side of that goal, and it's easily saved or cleared off the line by a defender. But he took the narrow route, the tiger line, and managed just to find it in the post.
Excuse me.
And for me, that sort of that ability in that snap second he had to make that decision was just shows exactly what he's capable of. And I thought that goal yesterday, even though everyone else watching that would think, yeah, it's a simple header and open net, it wasn't. He had a lot to do in that short period of time to react, to guide the header, to get it past the players and the goalkeeper. I thought it was actually a really tidy goal, and definitely epitomises what he's capable of. And I was really pleased to see that from Macca yesterday.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think as well, there's maybe a tendency due to our lack of goals that he could have waited for it to drop and had a touch, and by then keeper might have been up, defender might have been back on the line. chance might have gone, but he's gone early so that no one can get themselves set to try and defend it. And so pleased for him. I've seen the photos that have been published by Pro Images in the football club, and they're great to see. And it's great to see him getting plenty of praise because he deserves it, and he's a proper professional. And he's a decent bloke as well. He tries to interact if you do speak to him on Twitter and social media, and I think it's hopefully it's something that we'll see more of because the players have been very quiet, and this is something that we did mention on a previous episode. Let's hope that there's more performances and results like Saturday, which leads to more interaction between fans and players on social media because we do need it. And it was great fun a couple of years ago, like I say, when Macca was part of that quartet under Steve Evans. I think that's a very apt place to end today's episode, Rhys, on a very big positive for Alex Mcdonald and the football club. Appreciate your time as always, buddy. It's been great fun again.
It's really good fun. Thank you.
I feel like I need to say something along the lines of it's a goodbye from him.
And there's a goodbye from him. Or something like that. Yeah. We need to nail that. We need to learn that.
I don't know who's going to be Ronnie Corbett, to be fair.
I don't know either.
I'm not sure where either of us can be classed as the small one.
Absolutely.
Right, Gills fans, I hope you enjoy going into work more on Monday morning, wherever you're having to go, because it's nice to go in with a smile on your face, reflecting on a Gillingham win, reflecting on a Gillingham performance. Myself and Boz will be back Tuesday for a match day live in the Pizza Trophy against Brighton and Hove Albion under 23s. We'll then be back later in the week with a match preview ahead of the Crew away game. But until then, enjoy your week and up the Gills.
Law Skates Gills.